Hey everyone, Shauna the Tax Goddess with your afternoon YouTube connection. So today we are talking about 1031 exchanges. Now, one of the things that I love about a 1031 exchange, so first things first, 1031 exchanges used to be extremely powerful. You could effectively exchange anything for anything, which was amazing, but they got rid of that. You know, the IRS really doesn't want you to have cool tools, but it's still pretty cool if you're in real estate. Now, what a 1031 exchange means is that if you have a piece of income producing property, you can exchange it for a different piece of income producing property as long as you're following the rules. Okay, now those rules are very, 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 very in depth. Okay, so if you're thinking about doing a 1031 exchange, make sure you reach out to a 1031 exchange specialist or, of course, your local tax goddess, one of the others, oh, gracious, either one or the other from that standpoint. Now, listen, the 1031, where that name comes from, that's actually a section of the IRS code, and it specifically defers the taxes when you sell a piece of property and buy a like kind piece of property. Now, it's got to both be real estate, so you could go residential, commercial, raw land, lots of options, but it's got to be real estate. And the second part of it is that you have to reinvest those proceeds. So you can't sell the first property and then go buy a business with it. That won't work. You have to take the proceeds from the first property, roll it into the second property. Now, like-kind properties, you can sell a residential for a commercial, okay? There are some, so you can do commercial to residential, raw land to commercial, you can move around within real estate, which is awesome. But there are some very specific timelines, okay? You need to identify the new property that you're going to purchase within 45 days after selling your current property. And the new property must be purchased, like done, closed deal, within 180 days of the original sale, okay? And one more key component, you have to have a qualified intermediary, which are those 1031 exchange specialists I was talking about. So when you're really looking, you've got, let's say you inherited a piece of property 20 years ago when your parents passed away, you have this rental property, but maybe that area of the city isn't doing so hot and you really want to move to a nicer area of the city, maybe change it into an Airbnb, do something along the lines to make you more revenue, buy a better piece of property, or maybe even you had a huge piece of property and you want to break it down into 3 or 4 smaller properties. 1031 exchanges are great if you want to stay in real estate, okay? Now, you do, like I said, you have to use that qualified intermediary. You've got some very strict timelines, 45 days and 180 days. But if, let's say something happens, okay, because we see this happen all the time. You identify the property 45 days, check, you're good. You have a qualified intermediary, check, you're good. You're about to close, it's day 179, and the seller says, nah, I can't sell for another 5 days. Your 1031 just blew up, okay? There are what we call rescue services to 1031 exchanges. So if your 1031 exchange blows up, you can look at installment sales trusts. There are different kinds of, I'm going to call them all kinds of trusts. There are different kinds of trusts that can come in and rescue your 1031 because if it blows up, you have to pay tax on the original sale. But your tax planning maybe wasn't ready for you to pay tax on the original sale. So the very long story short here is when you're looking at a 1031 exchange, you not only need to be looking at the property you're buying, right? Because your money is always made in the buy of the property, but also the team you're working with, right? So does your CPA, your tax preparer, do they know about the 45 days, the 180 days? Do they know how to properly report the 1031 on a tax return? Do you have a qualified 1031 intermediary? Do you have a tax strategist that if your 1031 blows up and there's a problem or you can't find a replacement property, that we have alternative strategies to make sure that you don't pay taxes on the original gain on sale? So I always like to make sure that, especially my friends out there in the tax world, know there are options. 1031s are great, but let's say you're selling a business. Businesses don't apply for 1031s, right? Only real estate, at this point in the tax law, only real estate qualifies for 1031 exchange. So if you've got a business you're trying to sell, if you are trying to sell some big stocks, maybe you're retiring and you're trying to sell out of a big stock portfolio, If you're trying to sell your primary home, because this works for business, like rental properties and that kind of thing, does not work on your primary home. If you're trying to sell your primary home and you have a huge gain and you don't want to pay tax on that gain, but maybe you want to downsize, get to a smaller home, reach out. There are other strategies besides the 1031 that can help you not pay tax or massively reduce the tax you pay on the sale of almost anything. Okay, so businesses, stocks, your primary home, whatever it is you want to sell. Okay, so if you guys have questions on the 1031, if you want to use a 1031 exchange to build your real estate portfolio, you can use it to expand and use over time the increase in value to expand your portfolio. And of course, you want to defer your taxes. Make sure you're working with a tax strategist, somebody that specializes in real estate and really knows how to deal with it, okay? Because the last thing you want is your 1031 blowing up or some other problem with your exchange. So this is a part of what Tax Goddess does. We help high net worth individuals and investors leverage tax saving strategies like the 1031 exchange to minimize their taxes. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to the team. Happy to answer. We'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks and have a great day. Bye.